Hey everybody, Monkeypuzzle here, and I have a special episode of ARK for you today. Instead of the usual Let's Play here on the IronMine server in Season 2, I wanted to do an episode on building with some tips and tricks. And if it's well received, I may continue this and do a few little things on helping folks build in ARK. And I am still learning as I go, of course, but haven't seen this done so far on YouTube. I've seen tutorials on taming and on surviving, but building can be pretty tricky in ARK. Sometimes almost so tricky I wonder why I work so hard on it, but at the same time it can be very rewarding, and it's one of the things I'm focusing on. I have a couple big building projects right now that are going to be perfect for showing you guys some things. So here on the west coast, I've got a place I showed in my last world tour where there's these double waterfalls right by the ocean and these nice bluffs, and I'm going to use this to build a pair of towers. Well, it's actually going to be 4 towers, I think, at this point. And I've started a little bit. If you look on the map here, I am right where it says me. So that's the location in case you wanted to find this place. So far, I have made a simple dino pen, except that it's a hexagon. And I was using the snapping of the stone foundations, the fence foundations, to do that. And I'll show you a little bit of that a little later on. I've started laying out the bases of the towers. It's going to be a big tower with a small tower, and that's going to be mirrored over on the other side there. So I stopped at this point because I thought this was a good place to come in and show you a few things. So first, I just wanted to talk a little bit about resource gathering for building, because it can be quite grindy collecting all the stuff to build with. Just those stone pillars under there took quite a while. So the pair of dinos that's really going to help you out for this, at least if you're doing stone, which I'm doing right now, is a mammoth and a doedicurus, a doedi. And these guys work really well together to gather all the materials you need. So the mammoth, of course, is really good at wood and somewhat for thatch, and you also get quite a few berries every time you harvest with the mammoth. This particular mammoth, Mamushka, is awesome. It was a level 120 when we started, and we have ramped up its stats quite a bit. So usually I harvest till that point where I can't move anymore, and then once I get to there, I go through and I start dropping things. Now the O key is your friend here. So I drop almost all the berries because it just gets so many that it's just not necessary. And so I drop everything. Sometimes I just save the mezos, but I don't need all these. And these are partly what's weighing it down. So I just go through, and of course I save the narco berries as well. Let me put these up there because there's something I want to show you about that. And I think that's most of it. Yep. Let's just get these seeds all the way up. One of the things you also get a lot of when you're harvesting is seeds. And rather than just try to throw those out each time to simplify the inventory, I just keep all 10 kinds of seeds stacked up at the top here. And then that way I know where they are. They get filed until these get up to 100, and they don't clutter up my inventory down here. So then after that little bit of management, I should be able to move this guy now, or her. She's a little slow, but enough to get back. Now I could keep the team of the mammoth and the doedi out here. Getting stuck on things, a little weird. But I'm going to take it back to these chests here. Not quite sure. Okay, that was just a little rubber banding. Alright. And I like to park them real near the chest where I am storing all the building materials. And then, now with the doedi, one thing I learned is to make good use of the right click roll. Because otherwise you spend a lot of time getting from place to place. And you may have more stones some places than others. Oops, those are my way. And the doedie, by the way, is also, besides stone, is really good for thatch. It definitely gets a higher ratio of thatch than wood. So the trick with the doedie, besides using the right click a lot in order to move around, is to not get overly full. It's really tempting. If you look at my weight bar up there, see, if I took one more swing, I probably wouldn't be able to move. But if I avoid getting overly full, I can still use my right click. And so even though I'm super slow right now, if I was just trying to walk, the right click is not too bad for getting a full doedie back to the box. And again, another way to do this would just be to keep these two linked to each other and then just manufacture the parts out on the field. But I'm going to do it this way for now. So for manufacturing a bunch of parts, one of the things is that you have to put more materials on you than you can move with. So what I do is I park these two guys right next to a chest. And if I can just reach this guy's trunk or any body part, I can get stuff. Now I'm using T right now to transfer stuff, and that saves me a lot of wrist movement, which is really good in this game because you do so much. So let's get over to the craftables. Let's make some pillars, let's say. Oop. And go ahead and make them. And one stat I have not ramped up is my crafting speed. This is Mamushka's stuff right here. And that wouldn't be a bad thing to ramp up, except that the little time I spend crafting stacks of things, I don't know, I'd rather have it on other stats on my character, like weight, being able to move lots of building materials and such. So now you can see how the proximity to this chest was really good. And I can now get rid of these. I'm going to go ahead and put the wood back on Mamushka. If I was doing this just me, I would sit here and just keep loading my inventory, totally over-encumbering myself, and making all the parts with the wood and the stone on these guys. But I just wanted to demo that for now. And I think I have enough stuff that I need for the rest of this episode. Let's get about 10 walls right now. And let's do the same with some pillars. A little bit more. See how much stuff I can get here without being encumbered. And I think that's good. Alright, so a couple things I'm going to show you, or at least a few building tricks here. It'll probably be a little bit more than that. So one is I'm just laying out the foundations, basically, the platforms I'm going to be building these towers off of. I'm primarily using pillars. This is more pillars than I need right now, but I wanted to keep this strong. Pillars don't have to have a stone foundation under them, but I just like the look of that. There was a whole bunch of finessing just getting what's set up so far. I streamed that, but I'm not going to get into that right now. Let me see. So let me go ahead and just break this right now. Okay, and so this was my final pillar of this shape right here. So let me also grab some stone ceilings. And I am encumbered. Let me put some back. Can I move? Yeah. Okay. So one thing you'll notice, and I'm going to show you in a minute how to do this, but if I place this here, the pillar does not peek through. And that's a problem a lot of folks encounter with building. It's very hard not for that to happen in ARK. But I'll show you some tricks around that in a minute. But the first thing I want to show you is that normally the extending ceilings from a foundation type block, either an actual foundation like the ones, let me get rid of this for a second, an actual foundation like those ones that are down under the river there, or pillars also count as a foundation type block. You can only extend 2 blocks from them. So there you can see I can go out that far. Now if I try to place this it is not going to place. I cannot build out any further until I bring another pillar up to this height. But there is a trick for that. So let's go down here. And Thor, and from FTOG Torgal, his YouTube channel, you can check him out. Him and Easter Bunny, cohort of his, and the three of us have been teaming up. They showed me this trick here. So basically, if you build with, let me click that, with walls all the way down, and actually I reversed that, but I will change that afterwards. Let me just, let me see, let me E that. If you press E, the block you're working with will reverse, and I'll go back and fix that later. But then once you get them started on a certain angle, they usually keep the same angle as the block they're connecting to. Anyway, so I'm building down with walls. Okay, and I'll show you why I'm doing that. Now, things don't always line up exactly right in ARK. And this wall is not going to line up just right with this foundation. However, I already found previously, then like, oh, that didn't reverse how I wanted. I can line up with this foundation right here. And I'm going to demolish this one just to make sure that it goes right. So let's try that. There we go. So they're all facing the same way, except that one up there. Now, let me go ahead, back up there. This is all still under construction, so I don't have a better way to get up yet. I'm going to build doors and ladders and all kinds of stuff into this. It's just not done yet. Let me go ahead and see if I can break this. I can. And then what I want to do is break that one wall that's facing the wrong way. This, oh, just because that kind of stuff bothers me. So let's go ahead and do that. Can I get over here without dying? I can. Good. Okay. And you can see there's two different heights I can place this at as well. If I placed it down here, the pillar would show up. Alright, I just cut because I did place it wrong the first time. So there it is. That's where I want it. No pillar peeking through. Now here's the trick. So we have this wall that's extending all the way up from that foundation. What happens if we try to bridge out now? So there's our 2 blocks out. What happens when we try to go the 3rd? We can suddenly do it now. What happens if we try to go the 4th? We can do it. So the thing that made this trick able to work is, one, building that wall all the way up from a foundation up to that ceiling tile. We're just going to have to work through the rain here because that's just ARK for you. The other is that I've got foundations all the way across underneath, which you can see down there below the river. So these ceilings somehow know that those foundations are down there, and the basic pillar of walls allow them to keep bridging across. So that's a big one right there, and hopefully you guys understood how I did that, because this just enables so much. I mean, the main reason I want to do that here is I'm making a bridge across the river, obviously, but I didn't want to block off the river. I wanted to be able to go underneath, under here, and normally I would have to have pillars going all the way up, and I didn't want to have that. So now I'm going to take this far, and here's where I show you another thing. I missed the water, but I'm not dead. That's okay. Let me eat a little bit. And we're also losing some daylight. Alright, I waited out the night until the next morning, and you can see the gravity-defying bridge that we just constructed. And again, what made that able to happen was this row of foundations down here, and then the wall going all the way up there. And then you can bridge out as far as you have foundations. Next thing I want to talk about is snapping pillars so they don't peek through ceilings. And to demonstrate what I mean, I want to show you real quick how I see most people building. Uh-oh. Looks like we're gonna have a short distraction here. Hello, T-Rex. Thank you for interrupting the video. Alright, handled that. Another tip is station some muscle around you when you're building, because you get all in your zone and building, and that would have been disaster if we didn't have backup. So add that to the list. So okay, this is how I see most people building. Actually, we're going to use simple wood pillars and thatched ceilings because they don't cost too much. Alright, so I can go ahead and place this now, and oh, actually I can't get up there. I might actually need a ladder. Let me make that real quick. Alright, so I went and made a ladder. There it is. Now, if I placed it right, yeah, I should be able to get up here. Okay, so then what folks will normally do once they get started is they'll bridge out with the ceilings, and then at this point they won't be able to go any farther because they haven't done this trick over there, which isn't always what you want to do anyway. So what most folks will do now is they'll take a pillar, right, and they'll either place it like that, or sometimes you could place it like that. There you go. And build down, right? So that's handled. You can keep going out. Excuse me. The problem is that now you have the peaking pillars. And that is the downfall of most people's builds. And if I went out and did it again, the same thing would be happening. And it's not the biggest deal in the world, but I don't like it. And there's a way to avoid that. So let's go ahead and I'll show you how to do that. I'll demolish the rest of that later. Now here I've already done the hard part where I've got an angle going with my build. I've got pillars placed that align with the whole angle that the building is going to go. That's very important. If I was just setting these, I would walk in the line I want them to go in, and without moving my cursor, I would go ahead and place a pillar like that. Now I've already done that, and the thing that's going to make this really easy is we're starting from the lowest point and building up. So remember that when doing this trick, you have to place pillars from the lowest point to the highest point. I worked the opposite way over there, and it just made it really hard. So one thing people don't realize is that pillars will snap to each other. Now you can see these have two snap points, one at half a building space wide and one a full building space, but it's obstructed. But because we're going uphill, we can easily fix that. We just add another pillar there, and now this snaps right there, no problem. And then I can just keep working my way up the hill, making sure that you snap each time, and they'll all line up just right. And then what comes of this, if you snap the pillars together first, basically starting with pillars rather than starting with ceilings and sending pillars down, as soon as I get this in place, I'll be able to show you the beauty of this. Now, one of the things with snapping them together is that you use more pillars than you actually need to. Because ceilings can bridge out too, this one and this one could actually go, and I would only need that one and that one. With this particular build, I'm putting extra pillars just because they're going to be holding up these giant towers, and sometimes alphas will come and chew on your buildings and stuff, and the more pillars I have, the stronger it will be. Like if one gets destroyed, the chance of the whole tower toppling down is a lot less. But now let me demonstrate what that technique of snapping the pillars together allows you to do. Is I get that option to place a little bit higher, and none of these are peeking through the ceiling. So you can have whole builds where the pillars never peek through the ceilings. And if you haven't played ARK, you won't know why this is so frustrating. But yeah, if you have tried to build an ARK, you'll know how hard it is to pull this off. And so that's another really important thing that I use a lot. And now that I'm going uphill with this build, it's not going to be hard at all. So if I started it over again, I would have started right in the middle of this river and worked up both ways. Cool. Now I got one more thing I'm going to fit into this video to show you. And what I'm going to do is I am going to move this behemoth gate, because the way this foundation ended up, it is now pointing towards the build, and I can't get my dinos in here anymore. So I want to move it over there. So I'm going to demolish this gate, and I'm also going to use this opportunity to fix this build over here. I was snapping fence foundations together, and I started on the other side, and I was using the 45 degrees, which I'll show you in a second, and they didn't line up quite right at the end. They're missing each other by about a foot. So let me go ahead and demolish all this, and then I'll come in and I'll show you what I'm doing. As I'm demolishing this, there's one trick I want to show you. Is I'm about to get overburdened, and I want to make the materials that I'm collecting into something as I do this, because the actual constructed parts, the building parts, weigh a lot less than the materials they're composed of. Don't ask me why, but one thing you can do is up here in your craftables, you can take an engram and you can drag it down to your hotbar, and now if I'm just hanging out like this, I can press the number that corresponds, 1, and I will make that thing. So I can keep making whatever part that is on the fly, and then that's going to help keep me from becoming overburdened. Alright, so I'm going to keep demolishing, and I will be back. One thing to notice before I demolish the final frame of this behemoth gate is that I actually use stone fence foundations, these things, in order to place it. Now you can snap behemoth gates to fence foundations. It's, I think, the only thing they'll actually snap to. But when I did that, I regretted it, because it limited the places I could place it only to the snap points. And the problem with that is it wasn't exact. There was a gap on this side, and it went too far on that side. So this time, what I'm getting to showing you is how to place these exactly without snapping, but just by eye. Okay, I got that all cleared out again. So when you're placing stone fence foundations, which I have in my number 7 slot here, let me press 7, and you can see now I have a little ghost image of it. When you put them together, they'll actually snap, and you have a couple choices. You can place them in a line, you can place them at 45-degree angles, and sometimes you can get them to go at 90 degrees, which these don't seem to want to go. It's a little finicky. But so for build this thing, I use that one. I use the 45-degree angle, and that's what gave me the octagon. Because I was trying to make a shape that wasn't just square, that was kind of interesting, and so that's what I chose. Alright, just still working my way across with the fence foundations. I had to trim the building off a little bit because it was in the way this time. But you see, if I start to place my cursor, well, I don't have a cursor at the moment, but where it would be, into the previous foundation, it snaps into place. And that snap is definitely where you want to place it. Can be a bit tricky, but that's what makes it get lined up just right. So I want to go 7 across here, because that's what I was doing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Cool. So let me just put the walls back up. Cool, it faced the right way the first time. And I will rejoin you in just a second. The way I'm making this wall is 3 windows and a railing on top. And actually, I think I need to make it a little higher. I'm going to put more railings. Let me finish this up real quick, and I'll show you the last thing. One other little trick I can show you is that when I'm building and I'm collecting off the mammoth, I tend to collect lots of berries. And if you go into your inventory like this, into your HUD, and you got berries in one of these last few slots, you can just press that number, and look how fast that eats. It's a really easy way to live off of berries without spending too much time clicking. Okay, here's the last bit of rebuilding the wall. So I've got the space moved all the way over to here. So this is going to do two things again, of repositioning the gate so that I can actually get at it with the dinos and it's not blocked by the building, which got built in the way of it, but also placing it better so that I don't have the gap on one side and push too far on the other side. So let's make a new behemoth gate. The structure, what do they call each one? Stone. There is the behemoth stone gate. Okay. And so we're going to go ahead and craft that item. And then this is the gate that goes in it. I think this is the gateway and the gate, even though I didn't see that there. So we have each of those. They both used a lot of materials each, 450 each of stone, wood, and thatch. And you got to go ahead and make them here in the smithy. That's fine. So I got that already put together beforehand. See if I can get down from homey without hurting myself too much. Okay, so we got to place this now. And I found one, to get it to look right, you got to place it from the inside. So if we go ahead and press 5, you can see that this gateway is now a ghost image of it. And it's hard to tell what's going on, right? Well, you can press K, is at least the default key for it, which gives you that more cinematic view. And then in K, if you zoom out with your mouse, you can really see what's going on a lot better. Now, the limitation of K is you can only move on 2 axes, right? So you can go ahead and position this, but you can't rotate it. So when you get it kind of close to where you want it to go, you go back into first-person view, you rotate, and then you go back to K, and then you can go ahead and do basically the X and Z fiddling, right? And then go back, slight rotate. So first person gives you rotate, and then K gives you the X and Z. So I'm just trying to find a place where I think this lines up just right. You can see there on the left, when I do that, it starts to go into the fence. Just there it comes out. We want it about there, safe zone. How's it doing on that side? About the same. I tend to spend a lot of time before I place. Just like this, that would probably be okay there. It's just 900 each of these materials. So I tend to be a little finicky about it. When you're really lucky, you can come all the way from the side like that and really look and see if there's a gap. Or if it's pushed too much. So you can see right there, actually, on that side, there is going to be a little gap. So I'm going to go out of K one more time and just do a slight rotation that way. It's hard to really do it precisely. That's about right on that side. Still wants to rotate a little bit more this way. So let's do it one more time. It might have been too much. Okay, and see, let's get it centered again. And then let's look at it from that angle. Right there, there's no gap. And then right there, gap, no gap. Go in a little bit just to be safe, maybe. Because the thing doesn't always show itself exactly. Yeah, I think that's safe. And then seems to be pretty centered. Let's do it. And it's placed, so there's no going back now. Let's see how we did. Yeah, that's pretty good. I can live with that right there. I can definitely live with that. The thing's centered. I got the outside out. And now I can just go ahead and place this last bit. Boom. And there's this rock in the way. I could break it if I want. But I think that's a much better placement of it. Dinos can definitely get out now, go to the river. And I don't have those gaps that drove me crazy. So I just wanted to show you a little trick of going between first person and the cinematic mode, K mode I call it. But sometimes people change their default keys, and it could be on whatever key you want it to be. So that's a lot of stuff. I hope this was useful. If you like this, please let me know, and we can do more of it. And different advanced building tricks in ARK. They don't make it easy, but it's definitely doable. Let's make this a little bit easier to see right now. Yep. So there it is. I'm going to repeat that on the right, over there on the left, and then we're going to start building up the tower. So I'll come back here periodically if you guys want, and show you the progress and show you various tricks and tips along the way. In the meantime, this is Monkeypuzzle, and I'm signing out. Bye-bye.